Hello and welcome to the UploadVR Gamescast. Sort of live every Thursday. We do a YouTube premiere that counts as live, but it's pre-recorded. I'm here. I'm Jamie Feltham, and with me, almost as always, wasn't here last week, is the illustrious Harry Baker. Sorry, I always want to call you Harold, but you're not Harold.
I do sometimes get Harold as a joke. My funny quick anecdote: when I was about 5, we were driving into Spain in Europe, my family, and my mum and dad told me that I'd tell the person at the border that I had a Spanish name or I wouldn't be allowed in. So they were like, "This is Geraldo," and I went around Spain for 2 weeks as a little 5-year-old, being like, "Hello, I am Geraldo." So I'm very familiar with So I was so frightened I was going to get kicked out of Spain. So I'm very familiar with the name Harold and Geraldo. We can do that too.
My thing about it, Geraldo, is that I always try and start this podcast so formal. And I always like to try and do, very formal first names and everything like that. And then I have to remember, actually, it's just Harry. But now it's Geraldo, so that's fine. And I believe,
here we go. Geraldo.
As we speak, chat will be forever referring to you as Geraldo. So thank you for sharing that.
Geraldo. No problem.
This week, we are once again sponsored by Les Mills Body Combat. Instructors Dan Cohen, Rachel Newsham will guide you and motivate you through every VR workout. Body Combat now available in VR with new punch moves and a surprisingly satisfying knee strike mechanic. Body Combat is available on the Oculus Store right now, and you can check it out today. Find the link in the description below. I've body combated twice now.
I almost did yesterday because I was like, I got to work out. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna commit to it before next week. I'm gonna try out some form of virtual workout because I feel like I want to have.
Are you? You're a man that enjoys a workout in general, right?
I do. Yes, I have like a little home gym. With weights and stuff. So I want to try out some. I might do like a session in my gym and then kind of put on the headset for a 10-20 minute thing at the end or something.
Yeah, I would say get into it. Like scroll down to the bottom where they do like the 20-minute exercises. There's a couple of 25-minute ones as well. Like choose the hardest intensity and then it's pretty fun. Just make sure not to fog up your lenses.
That's such a problem. I find that happens so often with me, like even if I'm not exercising.
Harry, let's say thank you to our members who are Elaine Grass, the Shermacker 30, Anthony Mann Wexford, Miles Dyer, Robert Canonas ×2, Handy Panama, Daniel Barwin, Jerome Houston, Andrew King, Skeever 007, Sexy Bicycle, Devin Miller, Matthew May, Rick Tett, 360 Pickable, Smash Reality, Adam Hartzell, the absolute boy, and John Westra. Thank you so much for supporting all of the work we do at Upload, bringing you videos, bringing you articles, bringing you reviews, news, all that kind of stuff. Couldn't happen without you, and we're eternally grateful. Before we get into the news, I have prepared a surprise segment.
Oh no.
I call it, and I feel like this is going to be a recurring thing in the years to come. Wait, let me cast.
Wait, here we go. Drum roll.
Bad Metaverse Watch.
Oh, yes. This is a great segment already. I love it.
This is going to be
my morning.
Yep. This is going to be where we check in on what terrible ideas companies have for the metaverse right now.
I love this.
Debuting in our first ever special segment. If you are listening on audio, please go to YouTube and search Viverse, because that is the trailer we are talking about today.
Please, Jamie, you're going to have to spell that out for them because
Viverse, Viverse, all one word, all uppercase. Strangely enough, yesterday HTC tweeted out a video for what they, I guess, is what their vision of the metaverse is.
It's terrifying.
It didn't go down incredibly well, unsurprisingly. So
this is my favorite part, Jamie, the wine tasting.
Yes,
because it's
can I restart it?
Sorry.
And we'll go through it. We'll do a blow-by-blow account of what the heck is going on in this crazy video. But we know, for example, that it starts with the exercise thing on AR glasses. So a woman is on a treadmill. She's running with AR glasses on. It's kind of giving her medals based on her performance. Not a terrible start. I can kind of see that working.
I could see this happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I would run faster if it meant I got a gold medal for something. Maybe.
Yep, for sure. Maybe.
So she takes off the she gets off the treadmill. She goes home. She's now in her luxurious apartment where she presses a button on her glasses and is suddenly taken to a full virtual reality environment
Oh my
where
God,
for some
her body's
reason
gone.
she changes into a
She's
different
gone.
person.
Terrifying.
And she's in a cafe in her own home with a virtual laptop. Do you not like your home? Why would you want to turn your home into a cafe? Then this little weird, the Vive Ham turns up. That's what I've always come to think of it as.
This is terrifying to me. The like motionless bodies.
This is a real thing, right? This is their engaged platform.
I know,
but
it just seems so.
So they've moved to a virtual collaboration platform where they're talking, doing meetings, and then the Vive Hand turns up with a wine bottle, ladies and gentlemen.
This is so good. This is so.
And we
good.
go to a virtual wine tasting party. Please,
there was a comment on the video that said, thinking about the virtual wine, that I can't taste with the old man in the metaverse. And then someone later commented there's like a cat with an NFT or something. Incredible. We're purchasing Bitcoin wine. I
specifically bought with Bitcoin. A little Bitcoin turns up and like hovers around and it says purchase. And you're like, well, why? Okay, and also you're just drinking with a really old man. It's a bit weird.
And then it's a weird avatar. It's different. Oh, it's so bizarre.
Every universe in this Viveverse so far has had completely different avatars. There's no persistence.
What's going on here?
Now we're at a concert with some giant
the
people.
Foo Fighters.
To be fair, this looks better than the Foo Fighters thing. I'll give that to them.
It's true.
And then
an
NFT appears of Meowna Lisa, which is exactly what it sounds like. And then they meet someone to hug in an art gallery with the Meowna Lisa, an NFT art gallery, you assume. Oh my God, this is just horrendous. Oh dear, it's just like furry heaven, isn't it?
I've been looking for a piece of art for my house, and I think that's the one. I think that can go right in the hallway, so that anyone who enters my house sees that. Exactly.
Thank you for purchasing the Meowna Lisa NFT. And now, where are we off to next? I don't think I've even made it this far in yet. All right, now we're at a holiday beach destination. Gran is messaging us from inside the metaverse.
Do you think Gran is alive, or do you think she's like a digital avatar that's like...
Well, but this is the Viveverse. Anything is possible. Gran's an NFT.
A real person.
Wait, hang on. Gran got the NFT. I thought... So did she give up the rights to the non-fungible token?
The gift of infinite time, infinite space, and infinite love. Baby. Wow, chica, wow, wow.
I hope if you're listening on the audio, you went to watch that, because that was a bit of a watch-along experience. Basically, I'm going to play it again just while we talk about it. Yeah. I felt like we were getting to a point with HTC where last year they released the Vive Flow. We gave it Hardware of the Year. It wasn't an amazing headset by any means, but I liked it because it was trying something different. It was genuinely like a unique slimline experience that was actually a new category, not just trying to catch up to Quest or PSVR or whatever. I was hoping maybe we'd get through the next year without something monumentally ridiculous looking happening. But here we are. This is arguably worse than Zuck's
just gonna
Connect stuff, right?
Do you think this is worse than Zuck's Connect stuff was pretty... That was worse because you had people talking and it was like, hey, guys, join us for the game and stuff like that. Whereas this is solely conceptual and...
exactly.
So
that's the thing.
Heartless.
The conceptual thing about it, right, is with what Meta's doing with the metaverse, they're going to roll it out through Horizon, right? And fair enough, these guys have Vive Sync here, but where the heck is the wine tasting thing meant to happen with all these cartoon old people? Where the heck is
the weird way? It's like sometimes they're the same avatars as those Vive Sync. Like that kind of looks like a Vive Sync avatar. Then you've got the weird, like weird grandpa who is like a baby and a grandpa at the same time.
Oh dear. But then she has the wine in real life as well. I don't understand it.
Yeah, so is it syncing the wine? Wine tracking?
I don't.
Bring me wine tracking to my headset. I could have a glass of wine right now.
Literally put the Vive tracker on it, and it's just like really hard to balance the bottle.
Yeah.
This is just so directionless, throwing everything that's currently a zeitgeist, for better or worse, into a video with no real clear plan of how any of it will be delivered or how any of it will look, and it is ridiculous. It is
I just
ridiculous.
realized that people are tiny in the concert. Like there's large
Yeah, they're
people
giant. They're
performing
giant. They're giant
giant.
performers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of like weird because you don't, as you said, you don't really understand where, at least with, you have Horizon with Meta where
That
there's some kind
fox.
of,
What the hell?
you
Like,
have
why is
some
there a
kind
fox
of,
here?
I know,
Sorry.
the whole thing is, no. The whole thing is just, it's like, what is this? Where does cat art online exhibition step into cat art? Like, this is not a part of a platform they already have, right? It's like, and you know what annoys me too about this whole, not just this one, but this whole brand of video that companies are doing is that it's something that I have to constantly defend against people who are outside VR and
Yeah.
see this. And
Yeah.
they're like, this is a joke. What do you mean?
Yeah.
That looks so stupid. And you're like, this is not what I do day to
It
day, what I
sucks.
read, and it sends the complete wrong message. I even saw someone with the Meta AI thing that they announced, that video where he's like, let's put an island, let's put this. I just saw before we came in here, someone was like, this looks like something from 2003, which that's different because the point is not what it looks like, it's the AI
Yeah.
thing, right? But it's those kind of like the style of video and the kind of, the message gets lost as well, even if it's a purposeful thing, because people just go, this A looks like something that's really old, and B,
Yeah.
this is a joke, right? Like
the thing I always think about it is we had 5 years of covering VR and everyone was like, haha, VR's going nowhere. And it was like, stick with it, maybe it will. And finally, VR's going somewhere, and people don't really say that anymore because clearly Quest 2 is selling. We've got PSVR 2 on the way. It's actually like looking up. And then we just get hit with the next wave of crap, basically,
yeah,
which is everyone rushing to have some sort of stake in a concept that is potentially decades out from having any actual kind of meaningful impact on our lives. And it just shows you like how quickly and how short-sightedly companies rush towards these buzzwords. And it's not just Vive we're talking about. This is Ubisoft, this is Meta to some extent. Like last week we had the guys behind the Worms games, or 2 weeks ago, saying, oh, they're doing Worms NFTs, and then they had to pull out of all of that. People don't want this, and I don't understand why we're all just suddenly talking about this, because where is it going to lead? It's going to just lead to another wave of disappointment.
And it's not where the metaverse, what the metaverse will not be one company's vision of like this, even if, as hard as Meta tries to build their metaverse, when we have the real, actual, like original concept metaverse, it's not going to be one company's like Horizon program or ViveSync or whatever. It's the combination of a kind of digital virtual space that kind of isn't, doesn't adhere to one thing. It's not like a platform. So yeah, it's just kind of like, this is not,
It's, I mean, like having been in that Foo Fighters thing last week and having people chase me around going, oh my God, it's UploadVR. And I'm like, I just want to watch the Foo Fighters on this terrible screen.
Were people chasing you around? Were they?
Oh like yeah, it was like, I walked into the venue and I heard out the like other side of the venue, I heard UploadVR. And I was like,
oh, you're famous.
I didn't, the thing is I changed my, I changed my username, so I don't even know how they knew that. And then I was like, okay, I'll just go up to the balcony and maybe they won't find me. And I watched a terribly underwhelming Foo Fighters thing for 2 minutes. And then someone else came up to the balcony and went, there he is. And I was like, okay, I'm just
Jamie's journey running away from fans in the metaverse while trying to watch like the Foo Fighters.
Beatlemania in the metaverse is what it was, basically.
Oh dear.
So that was our first installment. I don't think that disappointed. That was our first installment of bad metaverse watch. I look forward to seeing what future weeks bring to bad metaverse watch. If you're watching HTC, don't do that. Just none of that really exists. How can any of that exist apart
less
from the ViveSync thing, which is
more
fine.
Action.
Yeah.
Less talk, more do.
Just make something cool. Make a cool piece of hardware.
Yeah.
Spend a couple of million on someone making a cool exclusive game for it, and you'll be back in the game. People will like you again.
Maybe just make that concert thing.
If I was HTC, we're getting into it. If I was HTC, I would just spend so much money on getting like one big high-profile exclusive or something like that. And I know that like they paired with Steam at the start to be like, oh, we don't do exclusives, and they've kind of kept that mantra, even though Steam's kind of thrown them by the wayside in the years to come. It's like, how do you want to get back in the game if you want to push like your hardware and obviously you've got Viveport, which I think is actually, full disclosure, Zeno Alabadi now working for Viveport, but I've always said that I think there's actually a good deal to be had in Viveport. They just don't do a good job,
especially with like the Saints and Sinners thing, right? I remember when that was a big thing. You could kind of did that come with it, or you got it for like there was a discounted price or something. I remember that when that deal came along, I was like, that's a pretty good bargain if you've got a PC.
Yeah, exactly. And they do stuff like that quite often. It's just they don't talk about it in the right way. I think people are very, very worried about putting Viveport software on their platforms, and like, there's just, without exclusives and stuff, there's also just not much reason to. So I would take a whole bucket of money and throw it at someone.
People are always hesitant to, I think, as well, with stuff like Vive, like buying Vive software on the Vive platform, because there's this sense of like, oh, what if it, with Steam, it's very unlikely Steam will kind of shut down or you'll lose stuff. Whereas with the smaller, even now with like, I guess the Oculus store, I don't think that's going to shut down, but the PC VR stuff is kind of, in limbo. So you kind of go, well, I think people are hesitant to dive in and go, well, I want to buy on this platform because it doesn't feel like the safest option. And I think more exclusives and things that actually prove that it's not just like a kind of, off run of what is on other platforms. It's like, well, we've just got the same stuff. You can just buy it here. I think more exclusives would lessen that, so that you've actually kind of feel like they're actually committing to it, right? They're putting some effort into their own platform. Alex,
because it's like, because all this,
exclusive.
All this money is going somewhere, and currently it's going on conceptual videos like that, which I don't understand where that actually ends up with HTC making any money, but I don't know. Anyway, let's get on to some actual news, not just terrible things people are doing. I'm going to start with, we're going to go to PSVR 2, which obviously had its headset final design revealed this week. We're not going to talk too much about that, but Harry, what do you think of the design seen here?
I kind of like it. I am loving this white and black renaissance we're having with the headsets. Something I haven't talked about a lot is I actually really think that the Quest 2 design is like quite stylish and kind of looks really like, often I have it sitting around the house in low lighting with like a small lamp on, and it looks very like retro future in the right kind of circumstances. And I feel like that's kind of the white black combo. I think this is kind of similar. It's a bit it's a little bit different, but I like it. I do. I like they get the Halo strap. I'm excited to try it. If it's a better version of PSVR, which it looks like exactly that, it looks good. I like the design.
I think there'd be more accusations of it like trying to align itself with Quest 2 if it wasn't like the shell of the PS5 letting them get away with that pure white color, which is cool. But I think it looks great too. I love the little meme that's going on with the two bottom cameras and the little microphone thing that makes him look really depressed. And like I still use PSVR quite often because I just find it such a comfortable headset. So if it can keep that and deliver all the the better resolution, the inside out tracking and everything like that, and I can get rid of all the wires that it involves, that will be a wonderful thing. But what we're here to talk about is that we've sort of kind of had a new PSVR 2 game kind of confirmed. Coatsink, the developers of Jurassic World, are working on a PSVR 2 launch title. They are owned by Thunderful Group, which is kind of like a holdings company that owns a bunch of video game developers, and they publish financial reports where they have to talk about everything. And a little snippet in there, as spotted on Reddit, said that Coatsink is now working on a PSVR 2 launch title. So, kind of second PSVR 2 game, like officially confirmed. Obviously, there's Horizon Call of the Wild, and then there's this. I suspect it's probably a port of Jurassic World Aftermath, which I know you're so on.
Thoughts on.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was them, what I would do is, because there's a lot of good bones in that game. There's a lot of good stuff that I really actually like enjoyed the concept of. And it gave me a nice little, I don't love the Jurassic Park / World movies, but I mean, I do like I'm not like a huge fan. But it's got this nice kind of nostalgia thing going for it. I think the mechanics are good. What I would do is not a straight port. I would make like another game using pretty much the same base and ideas, but make it like get rid of all the kind of story that goes nowhere, that no one cares about, that like you're standing around listening to, what's his name?
Oh,
Ahoo,
Jeff
aha,
Goldblum.
aha, Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
That was my great Jeff Goldblum
Yeah,
impression.
well,
Just
I was there.
yeah,
Don't
ahoo,
worry.
ha, ha. Jeff Goldblum, like just talking and kind of like you walking places. Get rid of all that. Make a shorter, focused, like room to room. You're in a room with the Velociraptor. You're in a room with the T-Rex bit. You're in a room with another dinosaur. Just give me a short, like 4-hour focused one. None of this 2-part business.
Yeah.
No repeating the same Velociraptor sections over and over again, running back through things. I think there is like a good game to be made for PSVR 2 with that framework. I hope it's not just a straight port of exactly the same game. That probably is more likely.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There's this whole thing about like standing around in VR while other characters talk to you that is just really, really grim. And
Yep.
it just takes so much patience, and it's something I definitely want to see combated, I guess, in years to come. Is just like getting to the point with VR, because that's what you need to do. I agree. Like an abridged version of that game would be something I'm kind of really interested in, because Super Hot is still Super Hot because it is just that 40-minute focused experience that doesn't waste your time at all, right? And I know we have this like huge focus on wanting to see bigger, longer games with more depth in story and everything like that, but that stuff's going to have to come through like expanding out these smaller experiences and
Yep.
really proofing it out, so you can take that concentrated blast of 40 minutes and move it into something that's 2 hours, then into 5 hours, into 10 hours.
And I just think too, it's like it's a misunderstanding of what is so good about the idea of playing a Jurassic World / park game. It's like, I just want to be here to evade the dinos and see all the different type of dinos in quick succession. The story is not what anyone. In fact, I could not even tell you the story of the last 2 Jurassic World movies if I tried. I know Chris Pratt is in it, and he gets stuck in one of those ball things at one point. That's pretty much it, right? Like, I'm not here for the story, and I think that's totally fine. Just make it a game where there's minimal story and I'm evading dinos. I don't get why we have to act like that's not a bad thing in itself, right? Like,
Yeah.
let the story games do the story games. Let me just get my nostalgia dino stealth fix in.
Yeah, the other thing about it though is that Coatsink has done a lot of really, really cool work. They did Shadowpoint, which was a pretty interesting Quest launch title. They've been in the industry for ages. They started with Esper on Gear VR. So I think there's plenty of cool stuff they could do. I hope we see something new rather than a port of their older stuff. But I do think, when it comes to PSVR 2, hopefully we are going to see ports of all the best VR content to it. So I think that's probably the most likely thing. Let's move on and talk about the first season of content for After the Fall. This was kind of revealed last week because the PlayStation blog can't keep embargoes, but this week it was officially announced, and we have a video showing what's coming up in the Frontrunner season, which is free to owners of the game essentially. Here's Tam 2 from Vertigo Games talking us through what we're going to have rolling out over February to the beginning of April, I think is how long this season starts. Starting with a Horde mode for the game. Obviously, Vertigo developed Arizona Sunshine. Horde mode in Arizona Sunshine was a really, really big thing. So this was kind of a given that this was going to happen at some point. Definitely great to have a new way to play in the game. You get to take in all your harvest upgrades and everything like that and earn more harvest, I'm pretty sure. And that's going to have 2 maps at launch. Then there's going to be a new harvest run itself in March, which takes you to Hollywood. So that's the game's main mode of, going through 20-minute levels, taking on bosses, doing it on an easy difficulty, getting like all your upgrade stuff, upgrading a weapon, going back and doing it on a harder difficulty. We have a new enemy called the Skimmer, who's going to I think he drops loads of loot if you catch him before he runs off. Yeah, basically.
I think it's like you go. I think they said you go and search for that enemy won't come to you. You have to kind of go and find it. Almost like an optional thing. I think it's a bit like it'll be around. You go find it. It's kind of like, oh, can I get them in time?
Well, that's
a bit like those things in Diablo where you see the little I can't remember what it is, but is it like a frog? Why does my mind think it's a frog? There's something little goblin thing. You have to run after it, and I hope it's like that because that's fun.
Yeah. And then just finishing it up is Desert Revolver coming this month, Light Machine Gun coming soon, and avatar customization coming soon, and new PvP maps. So quite a lot of stuff packed into the next couple of months. Obviously, when we reviewed After the Fall at the end of last year, I said I really enjoyed the game. I just thought it was way too meager on the content front right now. Like there were, I think, 4 or 5 harvest runs, took you about an hour to run through all of them. And then it was just a case of repeating all of that over and over and over again, which I get there's a market for that kind of stuff. I get that people love to jump in and get into the grind and like spend hours upon hours upgrading their characters and everything like that. But also at the same time, like I just needed more content to be able to justify all of that, so you weren't repeating the same thing every couple of hours, basically. Do you think there's enough in here to really start combating that, or do you think we're still going to be a couple of seasons in before we start really changing our mindset on where we are with this
Took
game?
the question right out of my mouth. Look, it doesn't, to me, it still doesn't seem like a lot in terms of, I mean, it looks like a lot when you put it like that, but it's kind of like the weapons and stuff are small things, right? Like they're not a big deal, really. So you're saying you're adding one extra map, and you were saying what, there was 4 or 5 harvest maps.
It's
in the game.
one new main map and then 2 horde maps and then a
But
new
the
PvP map.
main game when it launched, how many like
Oh, it
harvest
was. I
run?
think it was 5.
Right.
It might
Okay.
be
So
4.
it's like there's 6 of those. I guess the horde mode is good. I think it depends too. Like, to the players, I haven't tried it yet. Like, are you, as someone who has played this game, excited to play a horde mode in this game? Is that something that you feel like you want? Because it's kind of like it's just a mode no one's going to play.
That is a great question. I mean, I do love horde style modes, and I know they did it so well with Arizona. And if I was regularly in the ecosystem and turning this game on every few days to kind of get more harvest and upgrade my weapons, then yeah, I think horde would really excite me. But I don't think I'll be at that point for probably another year from now, when we're talking about like booting up the game fresh for the first time, and we've got like double the number of harvest maps, hopefully somewhere in the region of like 8 or 9 or 10, and a whole different bunch of weapons. And you've got, I think the most important thing, especially as you were phrasing it, is the new enemy, and the idea that maybe you're going to go on a bit of a wild goose chase to find them and get the loot, because that is actually changing the structure of those levels in some way, and hopefully adding to that randomization each and every time you go through a run. That will actually make it a bit more of a dynamic experience. Right now, I feel like right now, sure, they change where the enemies come out from. Sometimes you get different mini bosses and stuff like that, but it's essentially a kind of mindless aim and pull the trigger for 20 minutes over and over again, regardless of difficulty or anything like that. So I would definitely like to see more things that, along with adding more content, switch up the existing content so that you're having genuinely unpredictable, dynamic experiences every time. Like, like even going back to existing levels and opening up potential new paths through it based on your actions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the game needs. But I think the real telling point, and this is what I said in the review, or at least in our coverage around the review, the real telling point of After the Fall, and where I'm really going to have some sort of definitive, can't change my opinion now, stop on what I think about the game, is if they charge for the second season. Because I really feel like you either shouldn't or you should be charging very, very, very little. I understand that that's economically a hard thing to ask for, because you're charging the game and for the game, but then you've got teams working on this persistent live set of updates all the time. But I still don't think there's enough in the game to start charging for DLC just yet.
It's also difficult too, because like in our reviews, we don't really talk about kind of money or like the value kind of proposition of whether something's worth it. But this plays into that idea of like, okay, have I got the money that I paid for this game? If I come to the end of season 1, do I feel like that kind of promise of what I thought I was paying for, which really you should never buy something on the promise of content, but like, has that been fulfilled enough to feel like you could charge someone more? Which is, I think, the problem with that is it's different for everyone, right? Like, people have wildly different expectations, I think.
And they can go in the direction of, they're adding avatar customization. I'm fine if you start charging a couple of dollars or cents or pounds or pence or whatever for new cosmetics. That I think that's absolutely fine. That will never, ever, ever bother me, basically. Especially if you then throw in ways to still earn new unique cosmetics through in-game stuff, just basically like
Yeah.
like the Fortnite model or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's if it comes down to okay, come May, we've actually got 2 new harvest maps for you, but you need to pay another $5 extra for them. That's when I'm going to be a bit like, that's
Yeah, it's difficult.
you're just adding to the cost of a game that wasn't quite enough there already.
My
But
other
we'll see.
question too is based off what you've said just before when you were talking about kind of running through the maps and it feels a bit almost like mindless and the same thing again. This
Yeah.
Hollywood map, right? If do you think, because from what you're saying, it sounds to me you would play this map if you played it as soon as it came out, and you'd get in and be like, oh, I'm doing the same thing, but it's a slightly different map. Because that's often what I feel like with games like this that I've played on like console and stuff, where there's a new map and you're like, oh, as you said, it's not changing up the gameplay. As far as we know, there's nothing kind of different about the map compared to the others, like on a mechanics level.
I know influencers have played for it, and there's footage of what it is online. I haven't played it
Yeah.
or seen any of that stuff, so there might be some new ideas in there.
Yeah.
But
do you think
not yet.
going into a new map, do you think you will feel like, based purely off what you might, based off the other maps you played, because it seems like to me you just kind of would get in there and be like, oh, I'm still shooting the same enemies.
Yeah, I think that's probably
same structure.
likely going to be the case. And I think, because, at the end of the day, this map had to have been in development, or quite far in development when the game launched, because that was only a couple of months ago. And these things take months and years of planning to get right. So, yeah, I feel like this will be a very surface addition to the game. And hopefully from there, we can look at what else we can do to make like a really unique experience. Yeah.
I just think for me, the only thing stuff like this now, I just wish kind of like all of this had been folded into the game at launch. I'm a traditional man. Put the launch back 3 extra months and have this all at the start. Then, because I feel like there's way more risk with this stuff for this to look lackluster as an update than it is to like delay it and put it in the game at the start and it just be there and you go, cool, it's also got a horde mode, as opposed to like, do I really want a horde mode? All of a sudden you're assessing the fact that it's being added instead of it just kind of being there as a granted.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the difficulty of that is the game already came out a year later than they wanted it to, like a year and a half later than they wanted it to.
Yeah.
And,
this is what we're seeing across the entire industry too, right? Like this is what's happening with so many games. Yeah.
Were you going to launch this at the end of last year, where you were just preparing for Quest's biggest holiday ever, and you were going to be relatively near the top of the new releases, or were you going to wait till all of this stuff was there as well in the next coming months, and come back into that kind of lull where people are kind of starting to put their headsets aside for months at a time and stuff like that? So yeah, I don't know. I'm encouraged to see it, but I definitely, for me, the real teller is what's in the second pack and how much or how that second pack is going to be delivered, basically.
Yeah.
And we can move on to our third piece of news, which is that Minecraft is coming to Quest. Sort of. Sorry, no, don't get I shouldn't have paused for so long there. The Java edition of Minecraft, which is like what is the Java edition of Minecraft, Harry? You tell me.
Let me talk about the various versions of Minecraft. So basically, Minecraft started originally. The original version of Minecraft was Java edition. It was just that was the game. Then Microsoft obviously bought it, and they made a version that doesn't run on Java. It uses a different engine. I'm not sure what, or the specifics about that. That's now known as the Bedrock edition. And as far as I'm aware, the Bedrock edition is like the main version of the game that is available across like consoles, PC. It has like multiplayer crossplay. It's considered like the game. The Java version, I believe, and I could be wrong on this, someone might have to correct me in the comments, is still updated. It still gets the updates, but it gets them maybe later, or maybe it has stopped getting all of them or something like that. But it basically is there as for like PC players as a legacy kind of option. You can download any version of the game going back to like the original beta that I played in like 2012, and it does that for mod support. If you want to play like a weird Harry Potter Hogwarts campaign mod from 5 years ago, you would get Java edition because the mod was made for that, and play through that. That's why it exists, basically. And this is them porting it to Quest, like almost like an emulator of a classic game. Like it's running Java.
It's a fan mod, so that someone's brought it to Quest, and you have to own Java edition. But it is a kind of impressive port of. It's still got
Technical
full
feat.
motion controls and stuff, right? We've got some gameplay on the screen right now, which is you playing, and you've had experience with Minecraft on PSVR and everything like that. What are your impressions of this fan conversion thingy?
Well, interesting, because I hadn't actually thought about the PSVR angle, but I did not like that because it was no motion controls. Immediately, this is better because it's got the motion controls. That's great. I think it's a technical feat, like quite incredible. It's kind of crazy that it's kind of, it's this custom launcher. It's an Android launcher, as I understand it, that I think kind of existed already, and they've modified it for VR. The biggest problem is the Java edition of Minecraft has always, on any platform, been notoriously badly optimized and performs terribly. Even on a top tier PC, just because it's in Java, and that's that, right? So then you add on the fact that this is now essentially a wrapper for Java on a Quest. The performance is it's playable, and it kind of looks better in this video because the video is only 30 FPS, but I kind of found that it had a majorly variable refresh rate between it's hard to tell obviously with my eyes, but it seemed like it was going up and down. I'd turn around and all of a sudden it would drop frames and it would get slow, and then I'd turn somewhere else where I wasn't looking at something complicated and it would speed up. It's really all over the place in terms of it's the opposite of steady.
It's a wobble.
So it's a wobbly experience.
Wobble.
It's a big old wobble experience, which is kind of ironically sends me back to the old Minecraft days. But I think the other thing to note as well is that when you can install this, the install process is pretty finicky. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of weird things about it because it is still in beta, and there's a lot of quirks to how you do it. But when you install the base Minecraft, you install the launcher, you log in with your Mojang or Microsoft account, which is a whole other issue as to why there's two accounts. And then it downloads the game from the servers legitimately, as you said. So you need a copy of the game. It's similar to the Dr. Beef ports in that way, in that you're still using you have to own the game using the game. But if you play it like that, you just install it and play it, you can do it. That's really bad performance, because I hadn't actually tried that when I filmed this, and I did today when I was writing a guide. If you play it like stock, it's the frame rate's pretty terrible. Okay. You can install mods. That's the other thing about Java Edition, is that this supports all of the stuff from Java Edition, including mods. So there's performance mods that you can install. The biggest one, I can't remember its name, is not currently supported, but they're working on it. But they recommend 5 others that do certain things. I think one of them purely gets rid of tree leaves when you cut them down, so they don't stay on the floor. So there's less things persisting, stuff like that, than general performance stuff. You install that, and it's actually I wouldn't say it's playable if you really wanted to, but it still has the massive kind of drops and variable frame rate. But it's not when I played it without the mods, I was like, oh, okay. They say recommended mods. I would change that to you must install these mods to even think about playing this. But look, if they can optimize this more and get it to a stable frame rate, I mean, to me, it's already an impressive technical achievement, because it's kind of nuts. You can also play with people who are playing on Java Edition on PC with multiplayer, because it still has all that. Cool. It's the same thing. It's literally an emulator running the same version of the game, just in VR. So that's I was going to write a little promotional bit here on the sign being visit UploadVR, but then the keyboard support has not been put in yet. So I could not actually write anything. But imagine that sign says visit UploadVR. Yeah, so look, I'm very impressed with it in terms of the fact that it even exists. This is not something I even considered would happen like this. But wouldn't it be lovely if Microsoft earned themselves some major cash by just making this game on Quest? Just do it, guys. What are you?
That's the thing, isn't it? It feels like they've been kind of burned by putting it out on Rift, and you were never going to make a lot of money or kick up a big fuss on Rift because it was just far too hard to get into. Then they went with the PSVR thing, which arrived so late, and even though it's cool that it's there, and like you said, it's not very good for starters because it has all those control issues. The other thing is it arrives so late in the game that it's well, it's probably not coming to PSVR 2, is it? So this is kind of like a wasted effort in a sense.
Yeah.
So it feels like there needs to be a lot of work done to convince them to get an actual version on Quest, because it would genuinely be really, really successful at the end of the day. Quest has caught the attention of a lot of younger people, even though it shouldn't, because it's a device for 13 and above. But take one step into Horizon Worlds and have UploadVR in your name, and you'll know what's happening. So it's just it's a nice thing to see. Same, you mentioned the Dr. Beef ports. It feels like that kind of level of, for some people, the Dr. Beef ports completely justify buying a Quest in the first place, because they get to play some of their favorite PC games of all time in a Quest, even though there are some hoops to jump through. So I think for a lot of people, they're still going to be happy to jump through those hoops, happy to put up with some frame drops and everything like that, and have a fun experience. And hopefully that is significant enough that we end up seeing, the official version.
Yeah. Totally.
Pretty soon.
It just seems like so confusing to me that there isn't an official version of this game. Because I think what's amazing too is there's a Discord server with the devs in it, kind of going through the beta and all of this stuff as they've launched it. And if you go into that server, it is the conversations are going off in that server. I have never seen a server so busy in my life within a day of, because I often will join a Discord server for a mod or a game or whatever if we're covering it. This thing was packed. They've got several support channels because there's so many people just trying to get this thing working, because it is a bit confusing. I have never seen anything like it. The seemingly out of nowhere popularity for this is kind of staggering. I think it's also now technically on side quests, but even if you use the side quest version, you have to do some manual copying of things over. So it's kind of the same difference, really. But I mean, if you look at the stats on the side quest page, I was looking earlier today, it's huge already. Lots of people are clearly interested in this. So I hope it leads to an actual version. It would make me sad if the devs who worked I think they've been working on this, they said, for a year or something. It would make me sad if they worked on this and then all of a sudden Microsoft were like, oh, thanks for doing that. We are going to actually do this now. But
the thing is, when you're working on a passion project like that, clearly they didn't really intend to make any money. I'm sure for them,
they would be happy
win
with that result.
Is getting an official version and bringing attention to it.
Totally.
So we'll see. It would be a quick and easy win for both Microsoft and Meta is the thing. So I still remain pretty confident about it. You can go to the negotiating table on these things at any time, especially when you have Meta money. So it could definitely happen.
Yeah. The one last thing I would say is, although we made the Dr. Beef comparison, I would not be buying a Quest to play this.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's not quite that level of as in, I feel like if you compare this to the Dr. Beef ports or any other Quest app, it is still a janky, variable performance experience that it feels like to me when I used to jailbreak my iPhone when I was tiny and do weird things on it and go, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, but it kind of works. And it's why have I see, it's almost a novelty. Maybe people will actually play properly, but to me it's almost kind of wow, I'm just so amazed to be here. Less so I would actually encourage someone to buy a headset because they love Minecraft and want to play this. But I think that kind of covers it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of mods, let's get into our final news bit of the day, which is that we have a teaser, trailer or footage, I guess you'd say, for the Cyberpunk VR mod coming from Luke Ross, who does the real VR mods behind Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption 2, a couple of months ago, Horizon Zero Dawn, Mafia Trilogy. These are mods that you still play with a gamepad, but in the case of third-person games, Ross often gets them to run in first person. Obviously, with Cyberpunk, you don't have to worry about that. It looks nice. We're seeing footage of is it Night City? Is that what it's called in Cyberpunk?
It is Night City. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the heart of Night City. It looks like we've got gaze-based controls and everything like that for aiming and whatnot. But the thing about this is, as excited as I am to try this mod, and I haven't played any Cyberpunk at all yet. Even on a 3070 Ti, I've had trouble getting Ross's mods to work.
Yeah.
And this is going to melt every PC in existence, right?
He's pretty bullish on it.
I-
But he's the creator of the mod, so But it was interesting
Yeah.
words chosen by him. He was like, put everything on low, and the performance is like pretty okay on like a 3090 with a great CPU.
Exactly.
So
Like the best you could do on the lowest you could go.
Yeah.
And like maybe when
Go on.
if the 4080 and things like that come out towards the end of this year, maybe that's when you could talk about actually seriously giving this a go and people actually playing through the entire experience like that. But
here he says you can see there's a little FPS counter sometimes. It gets around 60-ish when he's recording. He says on a 3090 with, I can't remember what CPU, but I'm presuming it's like a top of the line one. He was getting like 80 to 90 FPS with everything on low. He also said you can turn everything up hypothetically to like ultra. But his thing was like, he thinks that it actually looks worse with like ray tracing and everything enabled in VR because it gives kind of everything a kind of hazy look. Which I don't really understand
kind of thing,
how that works, but apparently, he reckons turn everything to low. I mean, look, I'm not going to play this mod because I definitely can't, and also just because I wouldn't want to, like with the gaze-based controls. But man, I loved this game on PS5, and if I could play it in VR, oh boy,
Are you going to go back on that? Are you going to try the
new version
PS5 update?
I think I will, yeah. Because I didn't have that many problems. I had some crashes. It wasn't like when I played it around launch, it played at 60 FPS, and the city was pretty empty. That was my main problem, was that it looked empty because they had massively nerfed the rates of cars and people for other platforms, and the PS5 doesn't have a kind of, they nerfed it for PS4, and the PS5 unlike Xbox, doesn't have the smart delivery, thing. So if I had played on Xbox, I would have had more cars and people. But yeah, I think I'm going to go back and try it again. And man, imagine this game in VR could be so much fun. I think it's such a beautiful, especially like down the line when VR can do all the ray tracing, fancy lighting stuff. Who knows when that'll be? But because this game looks stunning. I mean, if you haven't watched Digital Foundry's like next gen, this is back from launch. They called it the next gen video of Cyberpunk. Go watch that on like a 4K TV. It looks unbelievable. That to experience, that's what I'm like, that's what I want in VR, is that level of like, wow, the lighting, the reflections, all of that. So this gets me excited for that. I still think this is pretty cool that it, it's a bit like the Minecraft thing, that it even works. I'm kind of surprised, to be honest, because
that's always the fun thing about mods.
Yeah, even with like Java Minecraft, I'm like, yeah, that's surprising. With this, I'm like, wow, this actually can support VR like as a mod. That's surprising because this thing chugs anything.
Yeah,
it just,
I've never sat and played through an entire VR mod past like what I've done for a stream or something like that. But it's always such a cool novelty, and I always think, man, if they could use this as a template to do something official, I would be completely there. But until then, I just really appreciate the work that's going on with it.
Did you try the GTA 5 one
which I had better performance with. It was I tried the Horizon one last month, and I was trying to get video of that, and it just wasn't playing ball whatsoever. Which was a real shame, because again, very cool to experience that world in, with that level of depth you get, and you, like you said, like there's really not many better looking games than this and Horizon and everything like that. So it's a nice reminder of the fidelity that we're trying to aim for with VR, and hopefully we can get with PSVR, and then one day, years and years and years from now, we'll be getting with standalone as well. But yeah, like you have to subscribe to Ross's Patreon to get access to this. So, and I think that's like $5 a month or something like that. So that's very much, keep that in mind if you're hoping to check this out. If you have a really, really powerful PC, by all means, give it a go. You'll also be getting access to those Horizon and Mafia and GTA and Red Dead mods. You have to own all of these games, of course. It's not piracy. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out as a curiosity if you're a big fan of any of those games. Before we move on, I have to remind you again that this month's sponsor is Les Mills Body Combat. Body Combat has 30 workouts designed to get the best results, as well as top quality coaching, innovative mechanics, and different intensities for everyone from beginners to advanced users. You can get it on the Oculus Store today. The link is in the description below. Last thing of the day. And I've just realized Steam Next Fest goes on for 2 weeks, so we can table a Steam Next Fest discussion for next week if we have time to try more stuff. But I have had the chance to sit down and play Green Hell VR, which is maybe like the most anticipated PC VR game on Horizon right now. I think with Hitman out of the way, and Alex and everything done. I guess maybe there's Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, but apart from that, people are really looking forward to this because it is a fun console game and PC game getting a full PC VR port. If you don't know what Green Hell VR is, basically if you've played The Forest or to some extent Minecraft or anything like that, it's a survival game about like chopping down trees, gathering resources, hunting, all that kind of like usual stuff. So if you've played Song in the Smoke, you'll kind of know where we are with it. If you've played like The Forest, you'll know where we are with it. This is originally developed by Creepy Jar, and it's now being handled by Incuvo, who did Layers of Fear and the Blair Witch VR port as well, I believe.
Oh, interesting.
I think they did that anyway. Okay. I could be wrong. And there was some criticism of the demo coming out before it launched. Again, influencers got access, and they were saying, there's a lot of performance bugs. Some of the interaction isn't great. And I think for me, going in with like kind of fearing the worst, I actually ended up having a pretty good time with the 20-minute-ish demo, which doesn't really open out into the whole open world survival systems. It's all very directed, linear, introductory stuff.
Yeah.
But I thought it looked great, and I thought it took some real learnings from Saints and Sinners in terms of UI interactivity. So like you have a notepad on your breast pocket, you have backpack over here to heal, you get like bandages and wrap them around your arm. And then it's not as sophisticated as Saints and Sinners, and it's definitely not as sophisticated as Boneworks, but you have some level of kind of physics interaction, which is really cool to see. And to me, it was actually pretty promising that if they can deliver all of this with a much more optimized experience, because again, 3070 Ti and not filming or anything like that, getting regular frame dips and judders and everything like that, it definitely felt like it needed some heavy optimization to get it to where it needs to be. But I feel like, unlike where you played the Hitman 3 PC VR support last month and were like, this is really rough and does not work. It works in PSVR because you still have a controller, but it doesn't work on PC because you're still expecting the full freedom of 2 motion controllers. This could actually get there if it's releasing in a couple of months' time, I think, which is really encouraging to see. It's also coming to Quest 2.
So that's my next question.
Yeah. That's a lot to chew, right? Like The thing is, when you come to Quest 2, you're not allowed to some extent, you're not allowed to have all these performance issues. I mean, obviously some games get away with it, like Blade and Sorcery, because it was such a big deal. But you would hope that Meta's going to be like, you can't release this until, it doesn't make people throw up all the time.
Yeah.
So that's meant to be coming out this half of the year as well.
I would not be surprised. Same launch date for both platforms.
I think it's the same kind of launch window. I don't know if it's the same date. Right. At one point, it was going to be that the PC VR version is out at the end of this last year, and Quest 2 follows around this time frame. Then they said they'll both be launching in the first half of this year. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them still miss that by a bit. Or certainly we saw the PC arrive in fighting shape.
What was the minimum spec for this? Talking of performance, like what was the actual recommended /minimum/recommended graphics card? Was it like a 3070? Not to put you on the spot if you don't know.
I think minimum might have been a 1080. I could be wrong.
Right. If you're struggling on a 3070, I doubt my 1080 would be able to handle this. The other thing too is No. Well, the only other thing I was going to say too that I worry about with Quest in this game, just even looking at this trailer, is there is so much foliage.
That becomes
like,
a problem
if we're talking
even on
performance.
PC.
Yeah, and it's like I can just see so much of this being cut because it's so much detail. It looks really good, but it's like I don't see how this is going to be on Quest, which makes me worried about what that will end up looking like, You know, if it's just going to be like kind of a barren land with a few shrubs here and like trees that look kind of, you know.
There's a level of the Medal of Honor campaign where it's like this kind of stealthy through the forest thing, and on PC it's like this really, really gorgeous thing. And then you load it
Yeah.
up on Quest, and literally
Yeah.
all of it's been taken out, and you're just walking along a barren surface.
No.
And they have shown footage of it running on Quest 2, but again, like that's just them showing what they can control. So who knows
In
where they're
between
going to
frame
end with
drops
it.
or
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's it. It's free on Steam VR for
Steam
the next couple of days.
Gamecast,
The demo for the next couple of weeks. And
Yeah.
there's some other demos which I think we're going to maybe make like the topic of next week, provided nothing else too massive drops. Because there's some interesting stuff to check out there. There's a couple of racing games I want to see. There's the demo for Hubris. There's the demo for Ziggy's Space Adventures, which I think we're both quite interested in. I'm going to call it there.
Yeah.
Can you try speaking to me? I feel like you've lost your voice. Have you muted?
1 2 1 2.
Oh, no, you're there.
I'm here. Hello, hello.
There you go. Sorry, I don't know. I think my one just turned the sound down randomly.
That's all right.
Anyway, what a wonderful podcast it's been. Exploring the Viverse and such.
So many. We went to so many places today.
Yeah. Well,
so many worlds.
We really knocked out of the park. I don't like to pat myself on the back too much, but this was a banger.
This is a good one.
Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week when we're talking Steam VR demos, maybe a couple of embargoes that we aren't allowed to talk about yet, which is cool.
Ooh.
Have yourself a good week in the Viveverse. Harry, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, Jamie. Have a good week, everyone. See you next week.
Bye.